Hi, time for a video.
No, not that one. Not quite. Oh, no, that's not even a tile. Dear Tim and Moby, how do you find the area for shapes like triangles, trapezoids, and parallelograms? From Dan. Finding the area of a square or a rectangle is easy. You just multiply the base times the height. The area of this rectangle is 10 centimeters times 5 centimeters. That's 50 square centimeters. The area of a parallelogram is also found by multiplying its base by its height, but there's a little twist. The base of a parallelogram is the same as the rectangles, but the height is the length of the altitude, not one of the sides. To find the altitude, we draw a line perpendicular to the base to the highest point on the shape. The altitude of our parallelogram measures 5 centimeters, so the area of the parallelogram is 50 square centimeters, just like the rectangle. A triangle is half of a parallelogram, so it makes sense that its area would be 1/2 of its base times its height. If the base of a triangle is 10 centimeters and the height is 5 centimeters, its area is 1/2 of 10 is 5 times 5 is 25 square centimeters. Got it so far? That funny looking shape is a trapezoid. It has two bases and an altitude like the parallelogram. You can spot the bases because they're the ones that are parallel to each other. To find the area of a trapezoid, we have to add its two bases together and multiply that amount by 1/2 the trapezoid's height. For our trapezoid, the area is 1/2 of 6, that's 3, times the sum of 8 and 10. 3 times 18 is 54, and our area is 54 square centimeters. Some of these shapes may look a little intimidating, but once you know the formulas, finding their areas is pretty easy. Yeah, writing them down is a good idea, but I would use a notebook or something.
Okay, you do not have to really worry at this point about some of the more complex polygons like a trapezoid. So don't worry about that for now. We're just going to start nice and simple. All right, on your whiteboards, excuse me, on your whiteboards, I would like you to, it says, let's back up. We know we can count squares to find the area, but we also have a formula. On your right whiteboard, excuse me, can you please write the formula for finding area of a rectangle? So pause the video and write down the formula. Area of a rectangle. In other words, what if we didn't have squares, a little grid inside of the shape? How would you find the area? The brain pop did show us. All right, write it on your whiteboard and press play when you're ready. Did you write down this formula? It can be actually written in two different ways. A stands for area, of course. Area is length times width, or you could say area is base times height. Both formulas will work. Let me get my little camera out of the way here. All right, looking at the area of this rectangle, area of a rectangle equals the base times the height. So what do we have? Base is, see, area equals base times height. So you plug in your numbers. Base is 12. The height is 7. 12 times 7 is 84. You will notice that it's meters squared because a meter times a meter. So you're multiplying a meter times itself. So meters squared. Please don't forget the squared. Area will always give you a squared answer because you are multiplying the unit by itself. Perimeter would never give you squared because you're adding each side. Okay, let's keep going. Using the formula area equals length times width, or you can do base times height, find the area of this rectangle now. Pause and restart when you have an answer. Did you get that the area equals 36 square units or 36 units squared? Right here. You can write it this way, or you can also write it, it's going to cover it that way. All right. Both ways are okay to write. Area equals 36 square units or 36 units squared. And how did you get that? Well, you could have counted all the square units inside here, or we use our formula. Area equals length or base, and you know that this is a rectangle, so these two side lengths are the same. So we did 9 times 4. 9 times 4 is 36. All right, using the same formula for area, length times width or base times height, find the area of the following rectangle. You can imagine finishing the lines to help count the squares too. I'll give you a minute when you're ready. You can hit pause now, and when you're ready, go ahead and restart. All right, I hope you got that rectangle B is 15 square units, so you can write it this way. You can actually even spell out the whole word square, but you can abbreviate. So 15 square units or 15 units squared. All right, I need you to now on your whiteboard solve for this one. Again, the formula length times width or base times height. Please solve for rectangle C. Rectangle C equals 24 square units or 24 units squared. How did we get that? 6 times 4. Base times height, or length. Always think length for long. Length times width. 6 times 4, 24. A unit times a unit is a unit squared. Okay, so rectangle D presents a little more of a challenge. And it's a challenge because you will notice that we have 3.5 units by 4. When I say by, think multiplication. All right, so you don't have this packet, but let's see what you can do without the actual paper copy of rectangle D looking at this video. Turn off pause this video and see if you can solve for this. You can also sketch it out on your whiteboard because you know that it's 3.5 by 4. So, oopsies. So what would happen if you made a sketch of the rectangle and sketched in the line? All right, let's see what you get. Okay, let's see what we get here. All right, let's get this off the screen. All right, so here's rectangle D. And I'm going to show you how I would solve for this. So I see that this line is drawn in, so I'm going to sketch the other ones. I also use a ruler. So we're going to sketch in vertical lines. Okay. Now I'm going to count. Well, I can do one of two things. I can do 3.5 times 4. base times height. We'll get to that in a second. Remember that the formula is area equals base times height. Base, think bottom, but this side length is the same as this one. So base times height, 3.5 times 4. So we can certainly do that formula, right? But to check our work, let's go ahead and count. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm going to start by counting all the whole squares. And again, it is a sketch, so it's not perfect. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 whole. But we have these halves. So these two together would be 13. These two together would make 14. So the area of rectangle D is 14, and you can write it one of two ways. Remember, you can do units, I'm running out of room, squared. I'm going to do it up here so you can see it. So the area, A stands for area, obviously, 3.5 units times 4 units equals how many total? 14. You could say units squared or 14 square units. Okay. Is anybody interested in knowing how to multiply this? I'm going to flip it around, 3.5 times 4, and show you. You learned partial products last year. Some of you know the traditional method. That's fine. So what was it again? 3.5, right? So 3.5 times 4, base times height. Let's do partial products really quickly. And let's ignore the decimal for now, just for now, but you will be putting it back in. You're going to do more with this as the year goes on. All right, so we have to let's ignore that decimal and remember that partial products, if we didn't have this decimal, of course, it would be 30 times 4. We're going to ignore the decimal and then put it back. 30 times 4, 120, right? And then we're going to do 4 times 5, or 5 times 4, same thing. That's 20. Okay. And you might be saying, but wait a minute, where's that decimal going? You'll see. All right, remember how we ignored it? So we really ignored one place. So we'll put it back in the answer. We're going to add 4, 1. All right, and since we ignored the decimal, we got it. Now we can't ignore it. We have to put it into our answer. So where would that decimal go? Do you remember what the answer was on this side? Do you remember what the answer was on this side? So therefore, all right, we have one decimal place here that we ignored. So the decimal is always there even when you don't see it. We're going to put it back in. And the answer is 14. 3.5. And it wouldn't make sense, would it? To not have that decimal, right? Because 3.5 times 4, well, 3 times 4 is 12, right? So our answer has to be about 12, a little more than 12. So 14 does make sense. If you left it at 140, that wouldn't make sense, would it? 3 times 4 or 3.5 times 4, there's no way that could be 140. So the answer is 14. So I'm hoping you got 14. All right, let's flip back over. Okay, what I would like you to do now is journal page, MJ Math Journal, page 6. Okay, and here's how we're going to try this. We're going to come back to our class Google Meet. I will let you know when to come back. I'm sure I already did. So please come back to the Google Meet. The goal is to have finished this page, page 6, and then I will give you directions after that. We're going to go over our answers. I will answer any questions here that you might have about area, and then I'm going to, depending on the time, of course, we will go from there. All right, so I need you to turn this off completely, open up your journal page to 6, and I will be seeing you at the class Google Meet to go over these answers. See you then.